countless sheriffs, lots of Minneapolis police. You can see they're all pouring in. Here we got Minneapolis police. This is against their contract. You can see I missed a lot of the action. There are people throwing objects. There's not immigration, I can tell you that. What are you trying to blend in with? What's with the camos? You're not in the jungle. You're in the city of Minneapolis.
That's why they're there.
Who is the machine guns for? Who are you pointing the machine guns at?
You think this makes
Who are the machine guns for? Do you think this makes it better? Do you think this makes it better? What are you trying to blend in from? Are you in the jungle right now? Are you in the city? Are you in America? Why do you have camo on? Why do you have... You are not welcome here. You are not welcome here.
Chaos unfolded this week on Lake Street in South Minneapolis as federal raid turned the neighborhood upside down. Federal agents backed by local officers moved in on a business suspected of drug and money laundering activity. But when the community saw armed agents flood the streets without warning, they feared the worst, an immigration raid. Within minutes, neighborhoods and activists poured into the area, forming human shields, tossing trash bins and clashing with officers. Some were pepper sprayed, some were hard, but all were afraid. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey says this wasn't about immigration. No one was arrested, and police claim they were only there to control the crowd. But sealed warrants, a massive federal presence, and the lack of communication have only deepened distrust. To many, this felt like more than just a criminal investigation. It was a show of force in the heart of an immigrant community already living in fear.
1939, this is the Gestapo. This is what the SS looks like. These are Nazis. These are Nazis.
We're all in agreement that Minneapolis has been about that life, right? I think an influential place like Minneapolis taking a stance like this publicly and people getting it on recording is the exact energy that we need for other states and cities to follow. Let's not forget who Minneapolis is, okay? They set the precedent for 2020. And we watch states and cities follow in their footsteps. And honestly, I hope it's the same thing. I hope that more states and more cities see what bold action looks like and that they follow. And before you say that this is exactly what they want so that they can enact martial law, that's not real. And our action in the streets is not going to be what's going to cause them to enact martial law. You're inciting fear in people if you continue to justify not being in the streets with the possibility of martial law. It's actually really difficult for a president to call for martial law. He doesn't have that power explicitly. Now, he can use military troops for domestic issues within the United States. But let's face it, my babies, he's already doing that. We're already there.
Close up.
I wanted to make sure that everybody in our city knows exactly where we stand. We stand with our immigrant neighbors. We stand with our undocumented neighbors. The Minneapolis Police Department and the city of Minneapolis were not involved in the federal action that took place yesterday. Our involvement was limited to keeping people safe once there was a standoff between protesters and federal enforcement. Moreover, the federal action that took place yesterday was not an immigration-focused action.
Yesterday afternoon, in the very progressive Minneapolis in which I do my radio show, the headlines across all of our local news outlets were ICE raids taking place in downtown Minneapolis. Now, this prompted a call to activists who took to the streets. Local city council officials running to the scene like it was Christmas because an ICE raid was taking place. This is their dream come true, because if you're on the left, you need to have protests and opposition to push your agenda, because your policies simply don't work. However, there was no ICE raid at all. This is what actually was going on. So as you can see here, protesters has showed up in mass to speak out against these ICE raids, but there were no ICE raids taking place. This was actually a multi-law enforcement agency investigation into drug trafficking of a local establishment. It's basically ICE was on scene along with local law enforcement and DHS, but ICE's role was in the customs enforcement, not immigration. This didn't stop the protesters, however.
In Minneapolis, a group of activists saw federal agents doing their f***ing job and said, you know what? Let me start shaming these n***s. So just like dominoes, one by one, more people start joining in. Shame! 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 To the federal officers. Yeah, you better back up! We're dead-ass shaming people in 2025? Imagine coming to work, doing your job, and then all of a sudden you're bringing shame onto your family. Here's the problem. These people thought ICE was pulling up to send niggas straight to El Salvador. That's not the case. The truth of the matter is, the federal agents were there with a search warrant for drugs and money laundering. Of course, those activists don't know that, but also, it's not their fucking job nor their business to know that. It's a criminal investigation. This whole thing started and happened because activists weren't smart enough to know that HSI agents and ICE agents' only job isn't deportation to El Salvador. They conduct workplace audits and raids as well. Guess what? They were raiding and auditing a workplace.
Do you think it's a coincidence that ICE chose to do their ICE parade circus down the streets of Minneapolis, the streets where George Floyd died under the hate of law enforcement? So this is a provocation to the American people and to get people to be outraged in the streets again. I'm proud of the people standing in front of ICE doing this, but it's intentionally cruel, and it's meant to strike a wound at the very core of the American that cares about what this country is built on. And for all of you that agree with ICE, that's because you're MAGA, and you too are cruel and is just as devoid of any kind of moral fiber as this administration. Shame on you.
There was a massive ICE raid conducted in Minneapolis, Minnesota. Federal agents originally gathered at a Cuatro Milpas restaurant, which is a Mexican restaurant. Now, they're denying that they were conducting any ICE raid, that it has something to do with drug dealing and money laundering. But unfortunately for local police, they said on social media they didn't have advance notice of the federal operation, and any claims to the contrary are false. Now check it out. These federal agents showed up in militarized vehicles and gear. Like, they obviously stuck out like a sore thumb. So obviously this caught the attention of the locals in Minneapolis. They started calling people. They created a whole scene. They started throwing trash cans, tires in front of these militarized vehicles, throwing bottles. It was pepper spray, a lot of pushing and shoving. People were getting hurt. There's no doubt. Now, they're still denying that ICE had any involvement in their operation, but it was a collaboration of a bunch of different agencies such as FBI, IRS, CI, DEA, ERO, ATF, USMS, DSS, U.S. Border Patrol, U.S. Coast Guard, TSA, and local law enforcement. And they have been making this claim that together we are safeguarding communities, protecting national security, and setting a new standard of joint enforcement efforts. But this is the thing. They're denying any ICE involvement, but the U.S. Border Patrol was involved. And the fact that many people taking photos of these federal agents. People were live screen shooting the screen where you seen next to police, it said ICE. They had patches and badges that clear as day that said ICE. But the people in the community of Minneapolis wasn't standing for that. They did what they had to do to protect their brothers and sisters. And people need to take notes. When the community comes together, they had no choice but to leave. Take notes. Don't allow these things to take over your community.
I just woke up, don't even talk about my hair. I just saw the ICE raid in Minneapolis though, and I'm like, I think we should start slashing their tires if it's possible. Or people should, like, literally every single tire when they come and try to take people. Because then they can't fucking move. Just saying.
I'm on vacation up north and I'm just seeing these videos of ICE, ATF, DEA, and FBI agents on Lake Street. And one thing Minneapolis can do is come together. These people are laying in front of cop cars. These people are putting their lives on the line for their community. And that's what we all should be doing in this time right now. So learn something. These people are ordering these agents around. I've never seen anything like it. Power to the people.
Okay, so I'm super confused. So in Minneapolis, it was like yesterday, there was like a Minnesota, there was like an ICE raid, and there was like a big protest. They were trying to block the police from leaving from the raid to basically block them. But I'm just so confused on like why it's a bad thing. Like I just don't understand. Like, don't you want people that are not here to be here? Because then they're taking away resources from citizens, actual American citizens. You know what I mean? I'm not saying the way they're going about it is right, but it's like, what other way would you go about it? Like, they're obviously not going to come willingly to leave, you know what I mean? And it's just, like, even in Minneapolis, like, bro, if you go to that same street, bro, if you go there any time of the day, it's just a bunch of, I don't know if they're illegal, but just a bunch of people just sitting there. They obviously don't have homes. They're just sitting there in the street corner, all waving your cars down. Like, it's fucking crazy. It's obviously not a safe area anymore. Like, that shit just turned to a shithole, bro. Like, Minneapolis has turned to a fucking shithole. Minneapolis was literally dope as fuck 5 years ago. Amazing. You could walk. Obviously, there's still homeless people, but it wasn't to this extent. Like, it's crazy now. Like, obviously, housing and fucking inflation doesn't help, but like overcrowding is not going to help either. You know what I mean?
So before this gets completely out of hand, the incident in Minnesota today was an example of why we cannot just have ICE running around everywhere. Because in this case, in Minnesota today, a business had some issues, something to do with drugs and money laundering or something like that. And Homeland Security was there, which kind of makes sense. The FBI, which was there, which kind of makes sense. The police department was there. But then I hear ICE was also there, so that doesn't make sense. So people got completely confused. So if there's one ICE vehicle out there, people are gonna trip. And yeah, you can't just walk up to every civilian and say, this isn't what you think it is. But this is proof that we just don't trust our fucking government right now. And we're willing to just put our dukes up and then put our lives at risk. So I don't know what the fuck's going on. So if you know what's going on, please share it in the comments, because we would like to get this clarified. But I bet you no civilian really knows what happened, because that's the government.